Dan Arbel in D.C., Jerusalem lawyer Danny Siedemann recently said, and I quote him, "Political conflicts can be solved, religious conflicts cannot be solved." It does, I guess, suit some fairly bad leadership on both sides to make this a conflict about apocalyptic religion. Doesn't it, Dan?
Yeah, and I think that absolutely it's important that and every effort should be made in order to avoid this conflict from becoming a religious one, because it is something that would be very, very hard to contain in the future if it does become a religious conflict. Clearly, there was a status quo in the Jerusalem holy sites on Temple Mount for many years since 1967. It has been respected by all sides. The Israeli government has maintained, in cooperation with the Jordanian, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, and the Waqf, which are the guardians of the Muslim holy sites, a good cooperation over the years. Prime Minister Netanyahu recently called on, has issued a decree not to allow any Israeli politicians to go on Temple Mount for the time being. The number of Israelis going on Temple Mount in general has been large anyway. I think this has been an excuse used by some Palestinians to incite the Palestinian people to create an artificial crisis.
Let's get a response from. Sorry to interrupt you.
On religious grounds, but this has no real standing, and this should status quo should
Let's get a response quickly, very briefly from Osama Nazal. Sorry to interrupt you, Osama Nazal. This is an excuse.
Stability.
Osama Nazal, this is an excuse, according to Dan Arbel, and Prime Minister Netanyahu has respected the status quo in East Jerusalem, according to Dan.
Really, yeah, what your guest is talking about is just theories, but what I'm talking about is based on the practice. For example, I'm living here in Ramallah, which is 2 minutes drive to Jerusalem, and I have not entered Jerusalem for more than 15 years. You know why? Because the Israeli government does not allow the Palestinian youth to get there without a permit, and they rarely give permits to the Palestinians. So what right of worship and what respect he is talking about? The Palestinians in Jerusalem, especially in the area of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, are suffering much. And today, if you walk there without throwing up your hands over your head, you would be shot and killed or injured by the Israeli police and the Israeli settlers.
So point well made.
More than that, the Israeli settlers writing graffitis on the mosque and on the churches, not only on the mosque, threatening the Palestinians, Muslims, and the Christians. So what kind of respect he is talking about?
Osama,
the
point well made.
Mosque
you made your point, Osama. I need to move on.
In an occupied city.
I need to move on. You know, let's go back to the central question here. If the idea of the two-state solution is really dead, according to many, then what is a viable solution to ending the conflict that doesn't include the two-state solution? Well, one man who believes a one-state option could be the answer is journalist and columnist at the UK's Guardian newspaper, Anthony Lowenstein, and he joins the debate here on the Newsmakers. Anthony, why a one-state solution over a two-state solution?
There's such an air of unreality about this conversation. You know, anyone who's spent any time in the West Bank or Gaza, as I have, or in Israel proper for that matter, will know that the idea of implementing a just two-state solution was never viable. And it's not a question of my opinion. This is the view of countless Palestinians and indeed Israelis. When you have a situation, as we've been hearing today and in the last decades, of consistent Israeli intransigence, where you have now, as you rightly said, between 600,000 to 700,000 Jewish settlers there illegally living on Palestinian land, the idea of a just settlement becomes impossible. And the thing that's so strange about the illusion of maintaining a peace process, which has been going on now for at least 20 years, is that the Israelis and the Palestinians on the leadership side both have good reason in maintaining that illusion. The Palestinian Authority receives money, training and arms from various other countries to maintain the occupation for Israel. There's a reason why so many Palestinians loathe the Palestinian Authority, because they've basically become Israel's policemen. On the Israeli side, Netanyahu and prime ministers before him, again, have no reason to implement a two-state solution. So we have this now strange, surreal conversation where people are saying, yes, if only both sides came to the table. Neither side has any interest in coming to the table. The reason a one-state solution, which for viewers who don't know means a just, democratic state where all citizens live equally. Now, for those who would argue that's a utopian view, that's how it works in the majority of countries around the world. There needs to be obviously discussion about respecting holy sites and each other's peoples. And let's not forget, a one-state solution would mean that, yes, Jews would be a minority in time in that state. Now, for Jews who say, why haven't we, and I'm a Jew myself, or an atheist Jew, why haven't we got the right to our own state? You don't have the right to a state where you discriminate against those who are not Jewish. Anyone who spends any time there knows that Israel has wanted for decades to make any kind of viable separation impossible. So now in 2015, we're still having a conversation about a viable two-state solution. It's over. The question now is, how do you implement a just solution for Israelis, Palestinians, Jews, Muslims and others? And unfortunately, in the short term at least, the reality of Israel realizing why that's not going to happen is that a growing movement of boycott, divestment and sanctions, which is increasing in power and strength, that says to Israel, you have a choice. You either maintain the illusion of being a democracy, which it only is for Jews, or you accept the reality that essentially without economic pain, you will never change your view. And boycotts and divestments and sanctions is a growing movement globally that says that this is a way that Israel will feel economic pain to change its view.
Okay, Anthony, I understand we're going to lose your line any second now, so I'll let that be your one and only contribution. But thanks so much for your contribution, Anthony Lowenstein there. Let's get Dan's response to that. Dan, why not what people term the South Africa solution for Israel-Palestine, one state? What's your problem with that?
First of all, there have been attempts in recent years, and there have been generous offers made by Israeli leaders in 2000 by Ehud Barak, 2008 by Ehud Olmert, that were rejected by the Palestinian Authority, by Yasser Arafat, and by Mr. Abu Mazen. And so I have to, and so there have been attempts, and there will continue to be attempts. Now, the one-state solution, what's utopical about that is the fact that Israel will not agree to that. It undermines the very democratic and Jewish character of the State of Israel. And in the Middle East, where you have 22 Arab countries, plus 22 Arab states, plus the Palestinian Authority, there is a room for a Jewish state. Jewish by character and democratic by nature, which does have an Arab minority, and that will be the case for years to come. Now, there should be an attempt to move the two-state solution forward. The one-state solution undermines the very being, the very essence of the State of Israel. And so if Israel does not want to undermine itself, it needs to promote the two-state solution and not resort to the one-state solution.
Okay, Mouin Rabbani, the one-state solution, the vision for a one-state solution undermines the very being and essence of Israel. There's no more Israel, according to Dan Arbel. Do you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I can hear you, but I can't understand you.
Okay, I'm going to ask that again. We've been discussing the one-state solution. Dan Arbel is vehemently against it. What do you think?
Sorry, the voice is so muffled, I can't understand you.
I apologize for that. I'm going to ask Osama Nazal because Mouin can't hear me. Osama Nazal, would you consider a one-state solution?
Really, when we are talking about a solution to a problem, you are talking about two parties. To us as Palestinians, of course, we stuck to the two-state solution so long, but as I said before, that Israel has killed any opportunity for that solution by its settlements and by its military existence and aggression against the Palestinians, and by the thought that it wants to exterminate the existence of the Palestinians. That's the only solution that the Israeli government has. No Palestinian in Palestine.
Nobody wants to exterminate the existence of the Palestinians. That's a lie. I'm very sorry. This is a lie.
The Israeli practices on the ground and on daily basis in Palestine indicates that, and the Israeli refusal to give the Palestinians their state in accordance with the international community resolutions indicates that. To us as Palestinians, we don't have a problem with the one-state solution, provided that it ends the apartheid and racism norms that it is based on these days, and the Palestinians live in that state with other citizens equally participating in elections and exercising all the rights that any citizen can exercise in a just and fair and democratic country. But when you are talking about this solution, I think you are wasting time. Why? Because the other party, which is Israel, is refusing that. Israel is all the time afraid of what they call the demographic danger.
Okay.
All the time they think and they believe that the Palestinians are danger. And today, if you see the restrictions that are imposed on the Palestinians who live inside Israel, who were able not to leave their country in 1948.
Okay.
They faced discrimination,
I'm going to have to interrupt you.
And even killing.
Okay. We have run out of time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Mouin Rabbani, great disappointment from all of us here that you couldn't hear most of the questions, and I apologize for that. But Dan Arbel in DC, thanks so much. Mouin Rabbani, thanks so much. And Usama Nazal. And of course, Anthony Lowenstein joined us very briefly there. Thanks all, gentlemen, for adding to the conversation. Many thanks to all of our panel of guests. Now, today's newsmaker has been the two-state solution, an idea to create two states for two groups of people. But as we've been hearing on today's program, it's an idea that is now dividing opinion more than ever. For more than 40 years, the model has been the declared goal of both sides as well as the international community. But has that time now come and gone? Are hopes for a two-state solution fading away? And should the international community be refocusing its efforts on finding a new proposal, maybe, a solution to the conflict that has cost so many lives? You've been watching this special edition of the Newsmakers with me, Imran Garta. We're leaving you with some of the most powerful images of the latest spate of violence from within Israel and the occupied territories. Thanks so much for watching.